It's time for the Brouhaha Sports Show. Brouhaha Sports with award-winning sports writer Dale McKee and co-host Marshall Wood. Talking sports with the legends of the game and famous sports personalities. Brouhaha. Now to Marshall and Dale with tonight's guest.
Good evening, everyone. Brouhaha time. Dale McKee sitting over there looking at me. Marshall Wood, ready to talk about it a little bit. How you doing, Dale?
I'm doing good. Listen, I just had to tell the audience this.
You look like you got something you
are the most popular social media guy I know.
Boy, you don't know me any.
Yeah.
What happened?
There was a picture of the 1970, might have been 1954, or 64, or 74 or something, class. And I saw your mug up in there. Yeah.
I didn't have no hair on my face, did I?
Well, you were the only one that hadn't shaved.
I don't know what picture you're talking about. Where we were, did I have a cast on my arm?
Well, the guy looked just like you, okay?
Did it have a cast on my arm?
I'm not sure. And then I saw a football picture that you posted.
Yeah.
You know? So, I'm just looking at all these things. And I said, man, he's taking over the internet.
Hey, I'm trying. 50-year anniversary, high school anniversary coming up this fall.
50 years.
Maybe the first Wayne County football game I've missed this century.
Really?
If I go to that 50-year anniversary, and I'm probably going to do it.
Where's it located? Oh, yeah.
Chattanooga.
Chattanooga, yeah. Well, just tell Coach Hankins that's
Hey, K-Dog got it. It won't matter at all. It won't
Thursday night game. That'll be a Thursday night game. We'll move it to Thursday just for you.
Man, I'd love that because I hate to miss one.
Sure.
I hate to miss one. People get in the habit of going to games. We had Gary Sigler on the show a couple of years ago. He'd been to 50 Egg Bowls in a row. Well, he didn't go this year. He said, I've had enough. Things change. People you go with aren't able to go anymore. And of course, the traffic and crowds is worse than it was 50 years ago. Things change. Things change, man. But Gary had a good run,
Well, some of these campuses you can hardly. I know Ole Miss games. The last one I went to up there, which Gary goes to a lot of them, but the last one I went to, you had to park down at the mall and catch a little shuttle bus over to campus.
Wow.
Yeah. So
the last game at Ole Miss I went to, I drove Steve Gandy up there on a recruiting trip and got to go in there and stand there on the field with Eli and
the boys
and Strong. Man, I got to get in the mix. So Gandy got me up on the front row, but he decided to go to Auburn. We went to Auburn too. But a lot of fun back in the day. A lot of fun. Dale, we got a show to carry on tonight. You got us. We got a little more time. Anything else you want to talk about before we get to tonight's guest?
Oh, we got a guest. Okay.
Well, yeah, we got a guest. Okay. We may have a guess. Not a guess, okay. So we may just have to guess.
Well, I guarantee you that in some of his conversation today, he will be guessing.
Hey, every day is just one big guess for me. I've said, which way am I supposed to go to get home? Mm-hmm. What bill am I supposed to pay today? Where am I supposed to be? Okay. What doctor am I supposed to see?
Well, my biggest issue today is who's going to be in the Final Four. Who's going to be in the Final Four? That's my
two
biggest.
Of them. I'm going with two of them: Mississippi State and Ole Miss. What you laughing at? Wait a minute. Hold on.
Oh, baby. Excuse me. Is that in women?
Wait a minute. You hating on our state schools?
Is that in women's?
No.
I listen. Hey,
I thought you needed perking up a little bit.
No, really. I am so proud of both Ole Miss and State men and women getting in a tournament. That is,
that's
there's only about 20 teams in the country that got both the men and the women in there, and State and Ole Miss two of them.
Wow.
I'm very proud of them.
I'll tell you what, Mississippi can get it done. The more,
Keep sending that money, folks. Keep sending that money.
Hey, that's what they say makes the world go round. It greases the wheel. Any other money saying makes the world go round, greases the wheel. Any other money things you can think of? I can't think of any because I don't have enough to really think about it too much. Except I wish I had some more.
No, I just know heads from tails.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. You know how to get a ball game started, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, we're gonna flip this coin and gonna say, well, it's about time we changed over. So, who we got tonight? I think we may have some repeat man that we love. Who we got?
We have Hunter Dawkins. He's down there from the coast, and he owns his own newspaper down there. The
Gazebo Gazette.
Yeah, something like that. And anyway, he's doing a great job. He covers the Saints because he covers a lot of Southern Miss stuff, but he just likes college football in general, basketball and baseball. So he's going to catch us up a little bit with the Saints, a little bit with the NCAA tournament, a little bit with the maybe college baseball.
Well, I'll tell you what, appreciate that. Let's take a break to hear from our sponsor, and Dale and I'll be back with tonight's guest, Hunter Dawkins of the Gazebo Gazette, right after this commercial break.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome to the show, Hunter Dawkins. Hunter, how is everything on the beautiful Mississippi Gulf Coast today?
You know, it's guys. When it's a little bit of weather came through this weekend, it just makes it that much better the next 2 days. It's not a cloud in the sky, and so it's a wonderful day down here.
Everything seems so clear after a storm like that. You can just see all the colors, and it's great to be alive and living in the USA, and good to have you with us today, Hunter.
Oh, and before we go any further, we have to wish you a happy birthday, and this is your present to get to be on our show. So
Just what you want.
Just what you wanted.
There you go. So, I definitely appreciate the present from you guys. It's definitely well authored, well appreciated.
Well, you're quite welcome, and you're always an honored guest here. We just love your information that you relay to us and to our audience, and we just appreciate all that you do. Okay, let's start with just the big headlines all week. The next couple of weeks are going to be the NCAA tournaments. Did you think it was? Did you think the SEC deserved 14 teams in the tournament?
There's a lot of questions about that, but at the same level, you have to look on the metric system. And this is what, the president, the director of athletics in North Carolina and Keith Gill, the Sun Belt commissioner, said, when it comes down to it, the 14 teams that were all above, they fit the metric system. When, you grade people by the strength of schedule, by the quad one wins, by all these different contributory, numbers, that's what they did. And, the funny story about that, guys, is if you looked at the first, 4 out, the last 4 in, none of those teams were SEC. So it wasn't even an assumption that they weren't going to have these teams. The teams had already made it. And in my opinion, I think it's very strong. Now, of course, you're going to get the naysayers who say, when they have 4 or 5 teams from the SEC lose in the first round, and they probably will, then they're going to say, they should have had this many number of teams. But that's in every single situation, and it's just because of the luck of the draw that this is the reason why it happened. But they did this. This is an accomplishment that Greg Sankey and the conference need to have because they fit the metrics perfectly.
Well, too, when you automatically give some bids to the mid-level conferences, and say the SWAC conference gave, theirs went to Alabama State, which had a record of like 19 and 14. So, there are teams in there, but besides the thing. Now, I did hear a lot of comments yesterday, about North Carolina getting in, that they only had what they call one quad win. I'm not sure about what the quad is, but I guess it's against really good opponents. And West Virginia had 6 and didn't get in. And so but nothing is perfect in the way they do it. They're trying to pick 67 best teams. Okay, in the end, it's just like going to be in the 12-team football playoffs. We fussed about some of the teams in there, but in the end, the best teams were playing for the championship.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, guys. The problem with this is that you have the human objective versus the computer. Now you're saying, okay, well, we want to go to straight, BCS selection of this, that, and the other. Okay, well, if you do it like that, then you're not taking into the fact of people being injured, people, having some, the last 3 or 4 games are being not necessarily looked at the same way. There are so many elements that come into the game. Then you have the otherwise scenario. Do you want human selecting or do you want the computers? And that's more or less what the odds of the day are at with the selection committees.
What do you think about that with the computer versus the human element? I mean, are you lean one way or the other, Hunter?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely a human, selector because, the idea of those elements of injuries, of situations of teams that go through certain scenarios, like, for instance, a Florida State last year in football, they only had, they didn't have a loss, going into, but because of their hurt quarterback, at the end of the day, Travis, who was hurt, that was going to take out a huge element of their opportunity to score. And you saw it in the bowl game because of that. Yeah. And that was something that a computer would not have projected. And that's why I think human selection, they base this on objectives and on metrics. I certainly agree that that's the way to go.
Well, I kind of, not to be argumentative now, of course, this is the Brouhaha, so maybe we need to have a big fight. I don't know, but anyway.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, it's all about deliberation.
You can tell that computer to remove that player and recalculate all the stats, can't you?
Well, based on now you're talking about draft books and you're talking about all these sports books and gambling and things like that. That's not necessarily you want to tie in those with, even though professional and college sports are primary, the options for these sports books, you got to be pretty careful about how much entwined on those two platforms you go.
Yeah, well, we can leave them out. Just remove the guy's stats, and you're not talking about betting. You're just talking about removing the player from his stats to see how good they'd be without him. Of course. Anyway, just food for thought.
Yeah.
Well, I just know
it's a good option. It's a good option, but I'm not so sure that you can do that.
I got you.
All right, now the Florida State quarterback went out a couple years ago, and that was a disaster. What about if Cooper Flagg from Duke's injury prohibits him from playing in this tournament? Is Duke still a number one?
Personally, I would. They think that they would be, even though Cooper Flagg obviously is a big time dominant player, at least from that level. But I think that they have made it far enough to where they deserve to be number one seed, and it's a little bit like a Florida situation too, the Florida and Auburn situation. They were both of those teams, regardless of who won or lost the SEC championship. They were going to both be number one seeds. And plus, you have to remember Duke is going to be playing the number 16 seed, so it's more or less, and from what I understand from his injury rate, they're probably going to sit him out for the 1-16 game and just get him ready for the Mississippi State game coming up. So.
Yeah, it's changed so much, and this is way before you were even born, but like late 60s, early 70s, UCLA was just running the table. John Wooden won like 10 straight championships. But the thing about it, I remember one year, USC ended up 27-2 in the regular season. They had 2 losses, both to UCLA, and they weren't invited to the tournament because they only had 32 teams, and you had to be a conference champ to go. And I didn't know at that time we had 32 conferences. But you had to win your tournament too. You had to win your tournament if your conference played a tournament, So
Dale, with your mighty wisdom of your youthful days, I could also remember with the NIT was a lot bigger tournament, at least, and it was almost at the same level of competition.
Sure.
Of the NCAA. So it's pretty much, it's more or less of the primary building. It's the developing. It's, newspapers used to be a pretty large thing on covering these type of scenarios. Now it's pretty much a 24/7 digital, online, and TVs are even starting to take a back seat to certain platforms, at least.
Have you come up with your Final Four in the men?
I haven't really thought about that. Of course, I'm.
Well, what you been thinking about today?
Get your head in the game, man. Come on, man. We got a show to do. We got.
Guys, it is my birthday, so I'm trying to think about some other things. But that being said, no, I think that all 4 number 1 seeds have a they're very high on my list, at least. And the only problem is with certain matchups, at least. You get those 8-9 seeds with your UConn, your Mississippi State, that can easily take it to number 1 seeds. And plus, you never know with these 14 SEC teams, they might have one that has just a stroll and just goes on a certain a certain winning streak. For instance, to Michigan State and Tom Izzo are very well known for making big time tournament streaks. Let's just say that something like that happens. Other than that, though, from right off of the start until I start predicting brackets here soon, I think right now all 4 of the number 1 seeds look pretty dominant, at least from where they're at.
Yeah, I really look for in my 4. Just looking, just based on what the tournament plays were, I still think that Auburn and Florida will be there, and I think Duke and Houston will be there. And I really think in the end that Houston may win it. I've watched them some in Big 12. They've got good guard play, and they're very physical underneath. I think that's what's going to help Mississippi State being physical, because people don't understand in these tournaments, you're so used to the officiating in your conference. Now the SEC, the SEC is a battleground under the gold. There's bloody noses every night, and if there isn't, something's wrong. But anyway, in saying that, you're gonna get officials that overcall, and you're gonna get key personnel having 2 fouls at the 12-minute mark of the first half and can't play the rest of the half, because the coach is scared he's going to get a 3rd foul before the second half starts. And then you have some conferences that just let them play. And so, but anyway.
Well, and if you have teams that go on a hot streak of threes, that could be anybody. That could be anybody, and based on the officiating, that they may allow them just to have hot streaks on threes, and there you go. That could be anybody, anywhere. You could have your Rick Pitino, your John Calipari. That might turn into a scoring fest just because of the lack of officiating. But I certainly agree with you on that, Dale.
Well, I just hope my kind of dark horse favorite right now, and I don't know why, just because they're just not a household name in this tournament, is everybody's saying you better watch out for Yale. So I'm going to be watching out for Yale. I don't know why.
That's right.
You're going to be yelling for Yale.
And to be honest with you, Will Wade, at McNorton East State, that team is constantly in the mix. And they've got a good matchup this time. And they might make a good Sweet 16 call. Especially if the matchup works out for them. So.
Yeah, Will Wade will be a coach in either the Big 10 or the Big 12 or the SEC in the next year or so, if not this spring. All right, well, listen, you did that. Okay, now tell us about your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Tell us about what you think the needs are. No, well, I better not ask you that question, because we may not have time to finish the show to ask you that question. Just tell me what you think they need. What's some major needs?
I assume too. Also, you're referring to the draft too in April, and so the thing is with the Saints, I actually like where they are in the draft status because they have more selections than they've had in a while at least, and they're trying. I believe they're going to try to get more higher picks at least on the first, second round. You know, there's an obvious need for a quarterback because there's really just no. Pretty much, even the head coach has pretty much indicated that Derek Carr is not the answer. However, he is going to stay for another year. But also, too, there needs to be a selection, at least on the defensive line and the linebackers, the front seven. I really think that they need to come out because, offensively, the Saints have always been pretty good, at least from without injuries, from the receivers, and they have stacked a pretty decent offensive line. Their offensive line wasn't as bad last year as it was the year before, so they're obviously doing better on that. They just have to keep people on the field, not let them get injured. But defensively, I think is where they need to be looking, and that's what I would assume in the draft, especially having the number 9 pick. They definitely need to look for somebody inside. You know, I'm not so sure who they would want, at least an edge rusher or a interior. I think they're doing okay in the interior. Edge rusher would be something because they have some veterans on the edge rushing, or at least on the defensive end, and I think they need to be able to pick up a few young guys on that. Plus, you need some linebackers, somebody to be able to back up Demario Davis and learn from him because, as you and I, and as we all know, Demario Davis ain't getting younger. And so, that being said, but I think secondary, they did lose a little bit, but they're pretty solid, at least all the way across the board from their secondary. And I really think that defensively, especially with the offensive coach and the offensive system they're bringing in, I think they're okay with that right now. Like I said, you can't really say anything as long as everybody is on the field in health. When they're not healthy, you can't really predict anything on that. So, but from the NFL draft, I think I'm throwing this out there. I think your guy Jackson Dart needs to be looked at if he's still available in the second round for their selection.
Do it, Jackson.
Yeah, I think he's the type of quarterback for the offense, for the new coach, because Jalen Hurts and Jackson Dart to me are similar in the way they play the game. As far as they're more or less, I guess, a point guard that just spreads the ball around.
Sure.
And
Sure.
I think that's what made the Eagles very successful this year, that Jalen wasn't trying to get spayed. I saw where Jalen got married the weekend over in Atlanta at the Ritz-Carlton. I've been to that hotel. I've been to that hotel one time. I ate there. It took me a paycheck.
There you go.
Paid me a paycheck.
I think the SEC Media Days is over there this year too as well. So.
Well, okay. Well, I'm not a fond. How can I say that?
You're a tightwad.
No, I'm just not a big Atlanta fan. I'll be honest with you. The city itself, now I don't mind going to Buckhead out there where the Braves play, but that downtown Atlanta, that's a little overwhelming for me, for sure.
Yeah, guys, I definitely had a trip with the Saints organization when I went and covered them in the Falcons. It wasn't exactly the most. It wasn't the easiest to get around in.
Well, we stayed right across from the Mercedes-Benz and the State Farm Insurance basketball arena, and
exactly.
just wasn't a lot. You just kind of had to be watching where you were going, if I can say that on the air.
You should have stayed out of the underground.
Yeah.
That's where you were.
I don't know what it was. All I know is I want to go back to the hotel. Let's go back to the hotel. Let's go back to the hotel now.
I'm sleeping.
But we did go to the Ritz-Carlton.
Yeah.
I promise you that.
There you go.
Guys, I hate to do it, but we're about out of time. Birthday boy, we appreciate you being with us today. That's special. It's always special when you're here, Hunter. Thank you very much. Going to ask you to hold on. But Dale and I are going to take a break to hear from one of our sponsors and be back with tonight's final segment right after this commercial break.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's final segment of Brouhaha. I always enjoy speaking with old Hunter.
We do, don't we?
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
He's a good guy. He's a good one. Down there on the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Enjoying his birthday.
Must be nice.
Do you remember when you were 42?
No, that's about the time my gallbladder blew up. So yeah, I do kind of remember some of that. I was told you got 40. Years and years ago, Gary, we were shooting doves out of the dove field somewhere in Wayne County. And Gary Sigler told me, he was there, he said, and Gary's a little older than me. He was older than my brother Jimmy, I think even, but those guys were talking, I was a young guy at the time, and they said, man, when you get 40s, when it really starts hitting, and I remembered that, and I got to be 40, and I said, man, I ain't having no problems. I'm 40 and I ain't having no problems. Next thing I know, I'm in a fetal position on the floor after eating the sausage biscuit and saying, man, what in the world is wrong with me? But anyway, age matters. I found that out just past the other side of 40. Sigler was right. Stuff does start tearing up about 40. But
it does.
What about you? That was the only really problem I had in the 40s was that gallbladder. But now there's been some things since then. It doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any better.
I'm reflecting on that and being 42 and having two young boys that were still in elementary school and best time of my life.
Well, you were a late bloomer, huh?
Well,
not really. No,
I don't know. I mean,
I was 30. I was 30 plus when mine was born.
I was too. Yeah. I was 32.
Okay, all right.
Took me a while.
To do what?
I don't know. what it was. Go to the store and get one. I guess go to the store and buy one.
Oh my goodness. Well, any other local stuff, any news you got going on around locally? How are you know
what? I've got to say something.
Come on and say it. I knew you did.
Wayne County boy. Well, he went to Wayne Academy. Super kid, high character young man, Will Hodo. Hit 2 home runs this weekend at College Station against Texas A&M. Alabama swept Texas A&M on the road. And Texas A&M was a top 20 team for sure. Alan hit a home run on, Will hit a home run.
Just get it right.
I get it right.
What's just a whole
Will.
Yeah.
Will hit a home run on Friday night, and they won like 3-2. And then on Saturday, the game was tied 2-2 in the top of the ninth. There were 2 out, and the bases were loaded, and Will hits a grand slam.
Kabam!
And that's his second grand slam this year. Earlier in the year, he hit one against Ohio State down in Florida, and when they were playing in a tournament down there, I think it was in Jacksonville. And yesterday, I watched a little bit of the game, and he got a base hit, and he hit the ball hard one time, but they just caught it. They overshifted on him. He's a left-handed hitter. Got a beautiful swing. Beautiful.
He can rip it, can't he?
Yeah, he can. He's 6'4" and 225 now, so he can rip it.
Oh, man. Well, listen, I think, Dale, that's a good one to close on there. We appreciate we revel in the successes of our folks in Wayne County, and that's certainly one that's had its share of success, and we rejoice in that. Yeah. We'd like to thank y'all for listening to us tonight and being with us. We thank our guest, Hunter, for being with us. Remember that you can follow us during the week on our Facebook page at the Brouhaha, or listen to all the shows on demand on our, what kind of channel is that? YouTube channel at the Brouhaha. But check us out. But now it's come time to say goodbye, Dale.
Goodbye, Dale.
We'll see you next week for more of the Brouhaha. Get us out of here, Jamie.
You've been listening to the Brouhaha with Del McKee and Marshall Wood. Heard Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. on WABO. For more of the Brouhaha, follow us during the week on Facebook and WABO.